Hi, welcome back to Consider the Truth. Today I want to go over Isaiah chapter 5, which is also 2nd Nephi chapter 15. But before I get into that, I wanted to read something that I noticed in Isaiah chapter 2 that I just realized a couple days ago. I thought it was really interesting. And I also recommend that you bring your scriptures along, and I really recommend a physical copy. I'm sure you could do all this on your phone or something, but a physical copy making notes I think is the best way, at least for me. But in verse 19 it says, "And they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth, for the fear of the Lord shall come upon them, and the glory of his majesty shall smite them when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth." And I just happened to be in Exodus chapter 33 a few days ago, and it goes along with that. And like I said in the previous video, a lot of the things that Isaiah says reference back to previous stories. That's where he gets a lot of his analogies and metaphors. It says, starting in verse 20, and this is going into the Joseph Smith translation, it says, "And he said unto Moses, Thou canst not see my face at this time, lest mine anger is kindled against thee also, and I destroy thee and thy people, for there shall no man among them see me at this time and live. For they are exceeding sinful, and no sinful man hath at any time, neither shall there be any sinful man at any time, that shall see my face and live." Do you think that might have reference to the second coming? "Behold, thou shalt stand upon a rock, and I will prepare a place by me for thee. And it shall come to pass, while my glory passeth by, that I will put thee in a cleft of a rock, and cover thee with my hand while I pass by. And I will take away mine hand, and thou shalt see my back parts, but my face shall not be seen as at other times, for I am angry with my people Israel." And so, going back to Isaiah chapter 2, verse 19, get this straightened out here a little bit better. It says that they'll hide in the caves of the rocks because the glory will be going across the earth, which they can't withstand the glory. And so it's like directly coming out of the story of Moses. It's really interesting. But today we're going to be going over chapter 5, like I said. And it's been a little while since I made a video. I feel like I should apologize, but really I don't need to. I don't want this to dominate my own personal life or my own personal scripture studies. I'm doing Come Follow Me, and then I read the Book of Mormon every day. And then we had General Conference come out, and I wanted to get a better grasp on what all of that was about. And then I had a couple vacations in there in the last couple weeks, and so it's just been busy, and then I get sidetracked all the time too with just different interesting things come up that I want to dig into a little bit more. And so I'll look into, that's how I found myself into Exodus chapter 33. And so this is kind of last on the long list of things I study and do, but it's also really important, just like all those other things are. And so I'll keep going. I want to get through Isaiah. I said it might take me a year to get through, maybe more at this rate, but I'll keep going, and little by little we'll get through the book of Isaiah. Okay, so last we read in chapter 4 is when, this is something that President Nelson and Elder Bednar and a few others have made reference to recently, is chapter 4, the last part where Christ is among Zion. And then it goes back to chapter 5. So this is kind of tricky to figure out chronologically, because our brains work very linearly, where after Christ comes, then chapter 5 would tell us what happens after Christ comes. But that's not necessarily the order of things. And so In verse 1 it says, "And then will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill." And so this is a song he's singing to his beloved. It's a love song. And I think normally when people write a love song, they write a love song about somebody that they know and that somebody that they have known. And it's not something that will happen in the future, but it's something that happened in the past. So I think we're kind of resetting here and going back to the beginning a little bit. And he's going to sing to the vineyard, which is different. In the Book of Mormon, we read in Jacob chapter 5 how the vineyard is the world, and the olive trees get scattered out throughout the world, or the vineyard, in different locations, and that's representing, for example, Lehi coming to America is a different part of the vineyard. However, in this analogy, the vineyard is the house of Israel, and we'll read that in verse 7 up here. "For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel." Okay, pretty simple. So the vineyard is the house of Israel, and then the plants within the vineyard would represent either the people or the groups of people in the vineyard. Okay, so this is the love song, and it's in a very fruitful hill, meaning it's a promised land, a nation. It's the house of Israel was promised to receive property. That's one of the P's of the promises of the house of Israel, that they'd receive property. And so then it says, "And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine," which all these things are making it the easiest on the people or on his vineyard. He's protecting it. And so the fence, the gathering out of the stones, planting it in the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it. So that when you see a tower, you think of a watchman. And also made a winepress therein. That reminds me of the atonement of Jesus Christ. "And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes." All right. And so it says, "The care and work shows God helping his people. The tower is the watchman or the prophets, and the winepress equals Christ." And it tells me to reference D&C 133. So we'll do that here. Trying to maybe get a little bit more organized, and I could pull up the scriptures on here and see if this is any faster. It doesn't feel faster so far. So if we go to 133 verses 50 and 51, it says, "And his voice shall be heard, I have trodden the winepress alone, and have brought judgment upon all people, and none were with me. And I have trampled them in my fury, and I did tread upon them in mine anger. And their blood have I sprinkled upon my garments, and stained all my raiment. For this was the day of vengeance which was in my heart." All right. And if you think about, I think he talks about this again a little bit later. Yeah, we'll read it in the next verse. And so it says, "And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, between or betwixt me and my vineyard." So we have a choice. We need to judge between and have an intelligent judgment between what we want to happen in our lives. It says in verse 4, "What could I have done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth wild grapes." And I'm a business person. I have a small business that I run, and if you think about maybe buying an asset or something, or investing your time, maybe you buy a gold coin or something, and the asset goes down in value. Well, that kind of stinks. That's not why you did that, but at least you still have the asset. You still have the gold coin, and you could sell it at a loss and get something for it. But when you're dealing with wild grapes, you wanted good grapes, and they're bad grapes. It's just a total loss. It's worthless. It's just like you've lost everything when that happens. And so in verse 5 it says, "And now Go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up. And I will break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. So he's talking about an apostasy. Those protections are going away. And I will lay it waste, and it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. Briars and thorns should be a key word for us, because that's what happened to Adam in the Garden of Eden. He was cursed with, rather I should say the earth was cursed with briars and thorns. And I will also command the clouds, which is also going back to the creation story, the firmament in the sky, that they rain no rain upon it. And so that's also going back to talking about the creation and the work. So the Lord forsakes the vineyard, and he's not going to do any more creative works or help out in any way down here. There's going to be a curse, the briars and the thorns. For the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. So like I said before, the men of Judah, those are his plant. And he looked for judgment, and behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. And I don't speak Hebrew, but something I read was that judgment and oppression in Hebrew are spelled very similarly to each other. And so Isaiah is kind of making a play on words. You're looking for judgment, but if you're not looking closely enough, it's actually oppression. And same with righteousness and a cry are both spelled similarly in Hebrew. And so if you're not being careful, you could confuse those two. And he's looking for righteousness, but behold, a cry. Now we're going to get 6 woes here. And 6 is incomplete, meaning perhaps these aren't all the woes. There could be other woes, because 7 would be a complete counting of all the woes. And so number 1 says, Woe unto them that join house to house, that they lay field to field. There can be no place that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. And so immediately when I read this, it reminds me that there's poor people that have no place, and people here are joining house to house, meaning maybe people have 2 homes. Why do you need 2 homes when there's other people that don't have a single home, or a huge home when other people don't even have a single place to live? But the book, Great Are the Words of Isaiah, in Nyman, let's see, I always forget his first name. Monty S. Nyman, here's the book right here. He says that in his view, could also be talking about like a central government, and you're joining house to the central government and relying on them instead of relying on the Lord. And this is big government kind of taking over and putting your allegiances there. Verse 9, it says, In mine ears, said the Lord of hosts, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, and great and fair cities without inhabitant. All right, and we're going to reference Isaiah 54, or cross-reference Isaiah 54 about desolate cities. In verse 3, it says, For thou shalt break forth on the right hand and on the left, and thy seed shall inherit the Gentiles, and make the desolate cities to be inhabited. So when either by war or whatever reason a city or a home gets abandoned, then it's up for the taking. And that could happen with the scattering of Israel. So also, as a reminder, going back to the beginning of what I spoke about, this happens before the second coming and leading up to the second coming. So this doesn't necessarily mean, I don't think, our time per se, because we're going to read about other things that are happening that happened before our day here, but also we could liken these things to our day. Verse 10 says, Yea, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield 1 bath, and the seed of a homer shall yield an ephah. So there's famine, and this is a role reversal where people have these huge big homes, and then they have no home, and they're putting all their efforts and attention to their fields, and now their fields aren't producing. 11 says, this is woe number 2, woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, and wine inflame them. So this is cross-referenced really well with 2nd Nephi. So we'll go there, and it says to go to 2nd Nephi 28, verse 7. And here's 20. Oops. See, I think just flipping through my book, I get there faster than these computers. It says, yea, there shall be many which shall say, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, and it shall be well with us. That's exactly like what we're reading about here. Going back to the book. And it says, and the harp and the viol, the tabret and pipe and wine are in their feasts, but they regard not the work of the Lord, neither consider the operation of his hands. So, in my view, these instruments, this is like a party environment. They're drinking, there's music, and that is what is in their feasts. And feasts is kind of a key word for me, where there's the holy feasts. There's lots of different Jewish holidays and feast days, and they've replaced those feast days with parties. So that's what they're going to do, and they've disregarded the work of the Lord and consider the operation of his hands. So they're disregarding the true feast days, and they're doing their own thing. Therefore, my people are gone into captivity. Why are they in captivity? It says right here, because they have no knowledge. You can't be saved in ignorance. You have to have knowledge. And their honorable men are famished, and their multitude dried up with thirst. And that cross-references to Amos chapter 8, verse 11, where there's a great famine in the land of knowing the word of God. And so these people, they're eating and drinking all day, but down here it says they're famished and they're dried up with thirst. They're not really getting anything of sustenance out of that. Therefore, and then this is like the little play on words here. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself and opened her mouth. So the people are opening their mouth and they're not getting filled, but hell will open its mouth and it'll get filled. It says, and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory and their multitude and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it. So hell will be filled, and I think it's kind of poking fun a little bit. It's like, it's filled with your glory and your pomp. It's like, your glory is nothing. You think you have glory. You think you have pomp. And now we're going to read about going down, down, down repetitively, just kind of emphasizing how far down these people are going. So they descend into this mouth of hell. And the mean man, or just the middle man, the average man, shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, means also brought down, and the eyes of the lofty, or those that are high up, shall be humbled. So all those that are high will be made low, descending, brought down, they're humbled. But the Lord of hosts shall be exalted. The one that descended below all things, he's brought up. So there's a role reversal here. He's exalted in judgment. And God, that is holy, shall be sanctified in righteousness. Then shall the lambs, which is a clean animal, there's kosher animals, there's clean and unclean animals. Lambs are a clean animal. So it says, then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. So that's going back up to where we talk about the nations being desolate and being filled with another people. And so the lambs, or people to follow that are righteous or chosen by God, they'll come in to these waste places. Woe number 3, starting in verse 18, woe unto them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity, and sin as it were with a cart rope. And my Bible here doesn't have any footnotes, but in the King James Version that the church uses, it has a footnote saying that this is talking about how we're bound to our sins, which is like a beast bound to his cart rope. And the cords of vanity. What's binding us to our sins is our vain ambition, our pride, and our desire to look good in front of other people. And they say, let him make speed and hasten his work, that we may see it. And let the counsel of the Holy One of Israel draw nigh and come, that we may know of it. We've all seen people like that. These are sign seekers. They're mocking God. They're like, where are these signs? Show them to us. That we want to know is just not there to see. And it's like, guys, it's everywhere to see. It's just so obvious if you open your eyes. Like, man, it's at some point people will open their eyes and they will see. It's just so obvious, these things, but they refuse to see them, and they mock those that believe that they do see them. Woe number 4. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. So Christ is light, Satan is darkness. They're reversing the two. It says that shall put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. So, and we see that all the time too, either in politics or in the law of chastity or whatever it is, people reversing what's good and what's bad in our world, making bad things seem common and even healthy. Woe number 5. Woe unto the wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Number 6. Woe unto the mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink. And so these are men of strength. They think they're so big and tough. They think they're so wise and smart. Which justify the wicked for reward. That's like what I was just saying. They want the things that are wicked to be good. That's the reward, is, hey, do these wicked things and you'll be better off for it. I'm going to put this book under here and see if that helps. No, that's worse. It says, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. So they're taking away righteousness from the righteous. That's injustice. There's an unjust system here that are hurting the people. And I know what you're thinking. It's like, that's today, that's us. And yes, that is all us. But I think he's actually talking about something before us. But yeah, we could liken it unto us. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble. We talked about that in chapter 4. The flaming fire, that's Jesus Christ. God dwells in fire, eternal flames. So it says, therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness, and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. So here, root and blossom are used conjunctionally, or like together, and the root would represent our ancestors, those that came before us, and the blossoms are those that come after us. So they're left without their ancestors, and they're left without their descendants, and so they're not sealed together forever. It's devouring the stubble and the chaff. That's like just waste. It's like worthless stuff. It's not even worth noting what it is. And then they shall go up as dust, which whenever you see dust, that kind of goes back to the creation in Adam, where dust was nothing until God came along and made something out of it and made Adam. And it also could represent just chaos. It's just like just worthless chaos state. And they cast away the law. And so in verse 25 it says, therefore is the anger of the Lord kindled against his people. Kindled, you kindle fires, so here comes the fire. And he hath stretched forth his hand against them, and hath smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. So he stretches forth his hand, and then we're going to see a lot of bad things happen. The hills tremble, so that maybe earthquakes and natural disasters. Carcasses are torn in the midst of the streets. Could be war. And let's see, he has smitten them. That could be like pestilence and disease. And let's see, maybe I won't read Ezekiel 6:14 and chapter 14 verse 9, because it just explains what the hand stretched out. It's Ezekiel uses it also to explain how that's not a good thing. When the Lord stretches out his hand, that means pain is coming. And you'll see that all throughout Isaiah. It says, and he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and will hiss, which is like a whistle, a signal, hiss unto them from the end of the earth, and behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. So this verse is huge. What is this talking about? We'll lift up an ensign, so that's meaning the gospel, or the Book of Mormon. And we're going to read here 2 Nephi 29, verses 2 and 3, which, remember that other verse we read was 2 Nephi 28. So Nephi read Isaiah, and he's kind of going through his explanations and stuff. It's not, when Nephi writes down what he has in Isaiah, he doesn't just like forget about it and move on to something else. Like a lot of it's all related to what he had written. So we're going to read verses 2 and 3. It says, and also that I may remember the promises which I have made unto thee, Nephi, and also unto thy father, that I would remember your seed, and that the words of your seed, meaning the words of the Nephites, meaning the Book of Mormon, should proceed forth out of my mouth unto your seed, unto modern day descendants of the Indians. And my words shall hiss forth unto the ends of the earth for a standard unto my people, which are of the house of Israel. And because my words shall hiss forth, many of the Gentiles shall say, a Bible, we have got a Bible, and there cannot be any more Bible. So that shows us how it's the Book of Mormon that hisses forth. It goes throughout all the world. And Moroni chapter 10, verse 27 through 28 says, and I exhort you to remember these things, for the time speedily cometh that ye shall know that I lie not. For ye shall see me at the bar of God, and the Lord God will say unto you, did I not declare my words unto you, which were written by this man, like as one crying from the dead, yea, even as one speaking out of the dust? I declare these things unto the fulfilling of the prophecies, and behold, they shall proceed forth out of the mouth of the everlasting God, and his word shall hiss forth from generation to generation. So we know that it's the Book of Mormon that the Lord is raising up as an ensign to hiss unto the ends of the earth. But there could be something else here. So let's go to Doctrine and Covenants 45, verse 9. It says, and even so I have sent mine everlasting covenant into the world, to be a light to the world, and to be a standard for my people, and for the Gentiles to seek to it, and to be a messenger before my face to prepare the way before me. So that sounds like the everlasting covenants. That's baptism, our temple covenants. Could be the ensign being lifted up. And we'll read D&C 105. Verse 39. Which says, and lift up an ensign of peace, and make a proclamation of peace unto the ends of the earth. And we'll read D&C 115. Verses 4 and 5. And it says, for thus shall my church be called in the last days, even the church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Verily I say unto you all, arise and shine forth, that thy light may be a standard for the nations. So those are all the ensign, or those things could all represent the ensign being lifted up that is being talked about here. So where are we? So verse 27 says, Now shall be weary, none shall be weary nor stumble among them, none shall slumber nor sleep, neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken. So these people that are going out into the world with a hiss, with a whistle to take the Book of Mormon out, they're going quickly and they're ready to fight. They're not waiting to buckle up their shoes. They're ready. It says in verse 28, Whose arrows shall be sharp and all their bows bend, and their horses' hooves shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring shall be like a lion, like a lion. If you see the word lion, that reminds me of Jesus Christ. In Revelation chapter 5, verse 5, says how Christ is the Lion of Judah. So they're going out like Christ. And let's see, we're going to read in the Institute manuals and in all of the Institute manuals, both Institute manuals for the Old Testament and the Book of Mormon, and in this book, Great Are the Words of Isaiah, it references this quote from Elder LeGrand Richards. It says, Since there were no such things as trains and airplanes in that day, Isaiah could hardly have mentioned them by name, but he seems to have described them in unmistakable words. How better could their horses' hooves be counted like flint and their wheels like a whirlwind than in the modern train? How better could their roaring be like a lion than in the roar of an airplane? Trains and airplanes do not stop for night. Therefore, was not Isaiah justified in saying, None shall slumber nor sleep, neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosed, nor the latchet of their shoes be broken? With this manner of transportation, the Lord can really hiss unto them from the end of the earth, that they shall come with speed swiftly. Elder Richards later used these verses to show that Israel would be gathered with speed. President Joseph Fielding Smith interpreted these verses the same way. Elder Orson Pratt referred to the immigrants coming to Salt Lake by railroad in 2 or 3 days instead of the 90 or 100 days it took before the railroad, as an example of Isaiah's prophecy being fulfilled. So I thought that was interesting. And let's read the next one too. It says in verse 29, They shall roar like young lions. And I didn't write down the reference. This is quoted in 3 Nephi chapter 21, I believe. It says, They shall roar like young lions, yea, they shall roar and lay hold of the prey and shall carry away safe, and none shall deliver. So that sounds really violent. We're going to be like lions, and we're going to kill these sheep, these young prey. They have no chance against us. But I don't think that's what that's talking about. We're like young lions, or like little Christs. If the lion is Christ, we're like young Jesus Christ. And it says over and over that we roar. They shall roar, and they lay hold of the prey. The prey here are the converts of the church. And what lion is going to carry them away safe? They shall carry away safe. We're going to take the prey and carry them away safely into Zion. And none shall deliver. So there's nothing that's going to stop this from happening. It's missionary work going forth with the Book of Mormon. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. All right? So it's like as powerful as a hurricane going into the world. And they're not going to want to do this, but if they did do this, if they did look unto the land, behold darkness and sorrow. I don't think we're going to even want to look at this darkness and sorrow, but if the righteous is like the hurricane of the sea, then the land would be like the darkness and the sorrow and the light is darkened in the heavens thereof. So why is the light darkened in the heavens? It's because the light is in Zion. It's among the people. So I hope you enjoyed chapter 5. I'd really like to do a live stream in the future, and it's really hard for me to schedule these things because I never know when I'm going to have an hour or whatever, 30 minutes to record a video. But I think I might be able to schedule it a little bit better. Saturdays and Sundays usually work better for like scheduling this time. But I would like to do these with a live stream so that people could comment as well, and I could read those comments, and it could be a little bit more of a collaborative effort because there's a lot of things I don't really go into. There's so much here, but I think I get a lot of the things, but I would like to have more people involved and stuff. I think that would be really fun. So I'll try to get that figured out, and maybe for chapter 6 we could do it that way. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.